I've known him for 17 years. I've sat next to him in parades in the back of convertibles and waved at people for hours. And quite honestly, where there should be a great deal of communication, there's none. I can't tell you the last time he picked the phone up to call me on anything. And I'm speaking long before the first indictment. He just assigned Dave Hendershot to do everything. And,
well, and I wonder
that's really a dangerous way to run the sheriff's office.
And I wonder whether he assigned Dave Hendershot or if somebody told him, Joe, this is what you need to do. And it was sort of the uneasy feeling that I got when I walked out of that meeting, because it wrapped up with, I had to get back over to the county attorney's office for a meeting an hour after ours started, and I wanted to be out of there about a half an hour. So after a half an hour after I communicated to him what I thought needed to be done with focusing the county attorney's office on some professional responsibilities, and that I wanted to move beyond everything that's going on here and how I saw the relationship between the county attorney's office and the sheriff's office, he segued into telling stories about his family, past Valentine's days, and that sort of thing. And then an aide came in and said, oh, Sheriff, you tell him Valentine's Day stories again. Well, we need to let Mr. Montgomery go. And it was a little bit like, and I don't want to disparage him, but it was a little bit like somebody coming into a nursing home room and saying, well, visiting hours are over now.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Well, it led me to sort of this conclusion that, sharing this with you in confidence, that I think when budget negotiations began and the sheriff started crowing about the court tower, that wasn't his idea. People within his office who need him to run one more time so that they get 20 years in were concerned about an impact to their raises, their salaries, their operating budget. And manipulate may be too strong a term, but something akin to that.
Well, it appeared to the board that there were just a lot of collusion between the sheriff and the county attorney, because they both had been very strong supporters of the new court tower, about a third of which will be dedicated to the sheriff's operations. 1,100 cells. There's a major transportation hub at the bottom, and much improved facility, really desperately needed, and it has been for years. It's been planned for 10 years, and they signed off on and supported publicly everything, right up and attended meetings, both the sheriff and the county attorney, right up until one day they changed their mind, and it happened to be the day that they announced that they were opposed to any decrease in their budgets, that they would fight, and there were a number of things that were said that I don't want to go into, individually, board members, and collectively. Letters from the county attorney challenging our authority regarding a freeze in hiring, a freeze in capital spending, for the whole county, given the drastic reduction in revenues that we were experiencing. And so they were leveraging all that, trying to force us to stop the project, which we were 2 years into, in order to use the capital monies that we had set aside to build the buildings, so that they wouldn't have to take any reduction in their salaries, or in their budgets. So yeah, I think you saw it all.
Yeah, it was sort of a microcosm at that point, and I think understanding that context and what's going on there, to jump ahead just for a second, I think is something that I would encourage you and other board members to consider. That, when I was general counsel for the County Republican Committee, part of my responsibility was not just base legal analysis, but was also to understand the political context and dynamic in which everything was happening. And being aware that that scenario there, in that situation, the two things that I would offer is, I understand what's going on here, which then arms me as an official to understand the dynamic of what's being done, so that I don't get played against anybody. First, that's not how I do business. Secondly, I understand what the motivation is. I understand what the context is, which then allows me to act accordingly. And then related to that is, just general strength of character and not wanting to get involved in developing political teams within county government. That was another point that I made to all the elected officials. They were very sympathetic to that understanding. That's what we need to do. So it was kind of bizarre, but I think that's where we are at in managing that relationship going forward, understanding that the sheriff's going to take his positions, and he's a big boy, and he's got to ultimately be responsible for that. But I don't see everything that he is doing as something that he's coming up with on his own, which again doesn't absolve him of responsibility, but I think makes me more cautious in understanding who it is that I would be dealing with and where they would be coming from. Telling Hendershot no, something's going to have to be done on certain projects and things that he wants to push forward because it's just a turf battle. I'm interested in playing those games. It's been too destructive, and I'm hearing it from the base. They don't like it either. So that's in general.
Well, give me more, if you would please, and if you don't mind.
Sure.
Reason to understand or try to understand why, given the losses in court, given the humiliating, press conference of last week, where the sheriff, as I understand it, hardly acknowledged Mr. Thomas, didn't let him use the podium. It was over at the sheriff's place, and the sheriff announced that they were dropping. Plaintiffs were dropping the RICO case, a case that was drawn up by the county attorney, allegedly his idea to start with. So, given that political context, bar complaints that are pending, why would he leave?
Okay. There are two aspects to the scenario that you just laid out. One is an objective analysis about political viability and whether or not someone could successfully run. The other side to that is things that had to be done in order to position Annie to be able to resign and forge a political narrative that would support the campaign for Attorney General. What you just said in less than a minute would counsel anybody objectively looking at running for office to say, the narrative, though, that has been built. I've been at places where Andy has spoken in the last couple of months. And I've been at places where he's spoken before that, where there are ardent supporters of his. The narrative that has been built, though, is that he's someone who will do whatever is necessary to do to fulfill the duties of his job, regardless of the personal and political cost. So, every time he's dinged by the paper, every time he's accused by the courts of doing something wrong, every time there's an allegation from the state bar, all that does is support a narrative that, look at all the cheap shots I'm taking. That's how they're characterized. But I still keep fighting.